Hello to our techie friends in Norway and hello to everyone. This is our next tutorial in our series on web scraping using Python. I am Scrappy and this is Worth Web Scraping. There we go. Hello and welcome to World Web Scraping. This is our next tutorial on our series of web scraping using Python. Today we will talk about how to scrap data and save it to a MySQL database. So that's one interesting thing. Till now we have saved that data to a CSV and Excel files are downloaded into our system only, but if we want to save your data into a database, how to do that? So we will look that today. So let's get started. So to do this, what we have to do is we have to first, if you don't have MySQL database installed into your system, so I request you to install MySQL database into your system. So for that, you go to this website. It's dev.mysql.com downloads, and from there you go to MySQL installer for Windows. Click on that and it will take you to a page where it will show you the available version. So you can install this MSI installer, which is the first installer, 24.4 MBs. So if you want to install, you can install this one. Also the difference is that this version contains only the server to create from your SQL database, and this one will comes with a lot of other Windows files and the software that will be installed. So if you don't want to use that much functionality, then you can install this one. Otherwise, you can install this one. So you can install any of these two SQL installer and then follow the instructions and just keep following the instructions as you do for any installer, and just install the database after it is downloaded. So after that, another thing I want you to download is Navicat for MySQL. So this is software that lets you see the database, that lets you visualize. If you are not comfortable with the MySQL query language, so you can use this database to visualize your data. If you are comfortable with your MySQL scripting shell, so you can skip this. Otherwise, you install this Navicat and you go here. Is the trial version. It offers 14 days fully functionality trial, and then from there you go here, download with support. Click on this and it will ask you to fill some details. You fill those details, and once it is done, you click on this MySQL and you fill this details, and then you click on download. So after this, it will download your Navicat. And so once your Navicat is installed, open your Navicat and you go here and you create a database basically. So I have created this scrapping database. So first you go and create a connection, MySQL connection, and it will ask you for some details and connection name. You create a new connection. You can name it anything and it will ask you for username and password. Please remember the password, because when we will be connecting to our database from Python, so we will need that password. So once you write your password and username, please remember that. So connection name, we will need the username, we need the password, we will need this post, and so you need to remember all of these things. So please remember that and create a safe password and click OK, and so it will create your database. So I have created this database here and I have named it scrapping. And so after that, you can create tables directly here. If you want to, we will create a table from our Python code and we will see how to do that. So this is the way Navicat gives you easy ways that you can visualize your database and MySQL database, and you can start working on that. So here you can connect to MySQL and Amazon, AWS, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and there are so many other databases you can connect to actually if you have them installed. So you can create your table directly here, and you can view your tables and everything. Or if you want to use your scripting language, you can create the tables from there also. So let's get to the coding part here. So today, again, I will be scraping the same data from our list. We did this in the last tutorial where we scrapped this table and saved it to CSV file and Excel file. So today I will scrap this data again, and this time I will save it into a MySQL database. So again, I am importing my libraries, and no need to import CSV today, and run the cell now again. If you remember our last tutorial, again creating URL open object, and I'm opening this site, and from this I am creating again a beautiful soup object, and from there I'm finding my table. My table is under table tag, and the class is wiki table. Plain row headers, sort table. We did this last time, and from there I'm extracting just the first table, and from there I'm going to find all tr. I'm finding all my table rows. We did that last time again. I'm initiating an empty list here, Excel, and I will use this list to add the data to MySQL database. So for row in tbody, again I'm doing that same operation, columns row dot find children, so it will find all the children of this tr, all the table rows, and from there what I'm doing is last time we created a list. This time I'm creating a tuple instead of a list because we need that tuple. We need a tuple to pass into to save the data into our database. So that's why I'm creating a tuple instead of a list here. So what I'm doing is I'm finding that element. I'm again writing a for loop. I found this children's, and on these columns I'm writing a for loop. Then element in columns element dot text, get me the text dot stripe the test for any special. Then what I'm doing is dot replace percentage with empty space. I am removing the percentage here. The reason is I don't need to show the percentage in my system, so that's why I'm removing it. So that's what I'm doing. I don't want this percentage to sign with my data. So that's why I have called the dot replace method here. So this dot replace method will replace the percentage sign, and we will get our data like this. So after that, what I'm doing is Excel. My list is there. I'm appending my list with columns, the data that I will get like tuples here. I will get these tuples here. This is the first tuple, and I will append every tuple into my Excel list here. Now again, what I'm doing out of the loop, and what I'm doing is I'm removing the first line. Let's just comment it out for a second, and I will show you what I will get in the end when complete my list. So what I'm getting, these all headers. I don't want these headers this time because I will be creating a table for my SQL database which will have this all of the headers, and I don't want these headers. So for that reason I'm starting from here, for I'm assigning my list back to Excel. And what I'm doing this time is I'm removing the first row, that is the 0 index, and I am removing the last row also because that contains null values, and I don't want this null values, so I'm removing that also for now. So if I do that, my first row will be removed that contains all of these headers, and my last row will be removed which contains the null values and nils. So I'm removing those, and if I run the cell again, so you will see how Excel is changed. My first row is removed and my last row is removed, so we have this neat and clean data now. Now we will go and how to connect to MySQL database. So first, to connect connect to MySQL database, we have a package called PyMySQL. So first install that package. If you don't have it, so just write a statement that pipe installs PyMySQL and just run the cell. So it will install this PyMySQL into your system. I already have it, so I'm not installing it. And then import MySQL, and then I am again using config parser today. If you remember, we used the config parser in our Google API and Twitter API videos. And why we did that? Because we had sensitive information, and today also we have sensitive information in a way that we have to pass it our password to connect to our database and local host name, username and everything. So for that reason I'm calling config parser. So import config parser, create a config object, config parser.row config parser in the previous video also. So config.read file names. So my file name I have assigned is my.properties. So my properties file I have created is my.properties. I have created, so these properties file contains all the information. So I've created a section here, MySQL, under that I have provided host name, username, password and the database like name of the database. So these four things I need to connect with my database. So that's why I have provided all of these things here, and then I'm opening this file in my config parser. So if I run this cell, it will give me all the details that there is only one database, only one session available, MySQL. That's what I have. So it's given me all those details, and after that what I want to do now, I want to grab all. So I will get my hostname config from using a .get method, config.get, and here I have to pass the section name. So section name is MySQL. From there I want to grab the host, so I am assigning it back to H. Then same way I'm getting user and am assigning it to U, and password I am assigning it to P variable and database. I'm assigning it to DB, and I will run this cell, and I've got my data and everything in a safe way. And now to connect to SQL database, you have to write these lines. So pymysql.connect. So to connect to database, you have to call that to connect method, and there you have to pass your host names, your username, your password and your database name. And if you run these cells, it will connect to MySQL database. So that's done. Now we come to where we have to prepare a cursor object using cursor methods. So why do we need to cursor object is we have connected to the database, but now to write into our database, we need to create this cursor object. And on this cursor object we can execute our statements of MySQL statements that we will write, and that will create our tables and add data to our table. So to do that, we are creating this cursor object. So this is my database now. I have assigned it to a variable scraps_db, and on this I'm calling it my .cursor method. So I'm assigning it back to cursor object. So cursor is scrap_db.cursor. Now on that, what I'm doing is if I'm creating a table wiki, so if this table name already exists, what I'm telling my cursor object is to cursor.execute. I'm calling execute method drop table is exist. So this wiki already exists, you drop that table. So because I don't want to rewrite on that same table again, so what this will do, this statement will delete that table from my database. Then I'm again creating a table as per requirement. So to do that, I have to write MySQL query. So what I'm doing to create table wiki, and then I'm passing the names of the columns, names that I want for my columns. So I want ranking column, market columns and retail value, physical and digital, performance rights and synchronization. These 7 columns I want, and these 7 columns I have taken from here. So I want all these names, these columns, and so these things you see here, integer, that means that my ranking column is an integer market because my market column contain the name of the country. So I have made the character, then retail value contains my name. So this 20 here specify that would be a 20 character long, so we can pass anything. I will pass a 50 here right now. Then retail value, again I have assigned its character if you go to retail value. So this is my retail value and it is $1 million, but it contains all these commas and everything. So because of that I cannot give it an integer or a float, and I have not cleaned it right now. So I will assign it as again a character, okay? So then physical, again I've signed it as an integer, and digital is integer performance, writes integers, synchronization integers. So these all values are integers I have assigned because I already removed this percentage sign from here, so now I can assign them as an integer. So that's what I have done. So this is the basic structure of creating a table into a MySQL database. So every time you want to create a table after you have connected to your database using your .connect method and you have created a cursor object. So after that you write a table and assign it to a variable like this. This is the basic content always. You have to write it in the same way. Create a table, write your table name, then under the parentheses you write your columns names, whatever columns are there, and you assign your like are integers on their floats or their characters. So whatever they are, you assign them. That after that, this SQL object I have created now, I will call my .toExecute method again, and what I will do is on the cursor that I create here, cursor.execute, and I will pass this variable SQL, and what it will do is it will create my table now. .execute will create my table now. The table name will be wiki and it will have all of these columns, and after that I'm closing my database. Scrapdb was my name of the database and I'm closing it, and I will run this cell, and it will take some time, seconds, and if I go to my database now and if I go to wiki table and I will refresh it once and I show you this table, what it should do is it should show me an empty table actually, but there may be some connection issue and it is not refreshing it. So let's create a new table actually and name it to something else. I'm creating wiki2 and I will run the cell again. So this will show you that I have created an empty table. Now if we go to our database, and we should have a wiki2 table, refresh. I have got my wiki2 table here now, and this is an empty table. My wiki table also is still not done, but I've created new table wiki2. So what this table is doing now, this is an empty table, and you see I have all of my columns here: ranking, market, retail value, physical, digital, performance, rights, synchronization. So I have got everything. Now what we will do, we will fill our table with our scrape data. So let's do that, and I will go back here. So this is my code that will write my data into my wiki table now. Now I will just change the name here of table wiki2. So what I'm doing, I am again connecting to my database because we closed our database here, scrapdb.close, so we have to connect again. So I'm connecting again, scrapdb py mysql.connect, and have passed all of my username and password again now to insert data into our database. what we have to do. Because we are inserting multiple values, we will use a method called execute many. So what these execute many methods do, using this method you can insert several rows into your table directly. You don't have to do it one by one, you can execute several rows directly. So that's for that reason we are calling execute menu, because we have 20 rows to insert, right? So now to write anytime you want to insert the number of rows into your database, you have to call it this way. So insert into Wikitools. So this is what this means is that in my Wiki2 table insert, and here you have to pass all of the column names that are in your table. After that you have to pass the values, what values to insert. So right now, because I have to insert multiple values, so I'm not passing those values directly. So in place of that I'm writing percentage. So what these percentages mean is it is just a placeholder. It doesn't mean anything. It is just a placeholder that so it will hold the place, and I will pass my list of tuples that I created above, this list of the tuples that I will pass and that will take the places of these values. So to do that, what I'm doing is I'm creating another variable record to insert what records do I want to insert now. I want to insert my Excel, that is the list of tuples that I created, and after that now I'm creating the cursor object again that we created above, also scrap db.cursor method, and I am calling again and again like last time we do use this cursor.execute statement. This time we are using execute many. So this executes many takes two parameters. One is the insert query. This is called the insert query. You are writing a query to your MySQL database. So the first thing that it takes is your insert query. Second thing it takes is your record to insert your list of tuples that you want to enter. So if you enter these things here, then you have passed both the things that is required to do after that to commit our changes into our table. We have to call this method called .commit. So after writing this cursor.execute many writes these statements, scrape and db commit. So what it will do, it will commit your changes into your table. If you don't write it, the changes will not be implemented, okay? And so after that I'm printing this statement, just cursor.row count and how many rows I am inserting as a record inserted successfully into Wiki2 table, just to show that my data has been successfully inserted into MySQL database. After that I'm closing my database again, scrap db.close, close my database. So I will run the cell, and you see this that it says 20 records inserted successfully into Wiki2 table. So this will insert 20 rows into my table. So let's see my table now. I am back to my Navicat for MySQL, and it has inserted my table, and I will refresh it. Is again not refreshing. I'll go back. I will just close this table once, this table, and I will open this table again, Wiki2, and it has matter. It contains all of my data, and you see 1, 2, 3, all my ranking, market, retail, value, and everything. So that's the way you write the scrap data into MySQL database. So try this at home. So that is all for today, my techy friends. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video tutorial, and do not stop visiting our website. Leave your comments below and ask me any question you have. I will be happy to answer them. Link is given in the description of this video to get code and full material. Stay happy, stay safe, stay techy.